Today's episode is for everyone, but especially for those of you who work outside the home, either running a business or working for someone else. So you may know that in addition to running Grin and Glam, which is my in-person organizing business and the business through which I run the G&G Home Organizing membership, that I am also a business coach for female entrepreneurs through my Corinne Morahan brand. So this episode is being brought to you with a lot of the experience and lessons from that side of the business. So it is common knowledge at this point that most women feel completely overwhelmed and overworked, and frankly, like we're failing at both work and at home. And it's so frustrating because you feel like when you're doing one, your mind is on the other and vice versa, and that you are not showing up at either place in the way that you want. You're not showing up as your favorite version of yourself. And I totally get that because that was my story for so many years. It's not anymore, which we're going to get into. But it is the story for so many of the women that I coach when they first come to me. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know that I have found some great ways to transform that so I don't have to live in that space anymore. And a huge piece of that, of course, was getting organized at home. And that is why I feel so strongly that getting organized is the fast track to a better life. And even if you are so bogged down with running a business or working for someone else, that it really is worthy of your time to get organized. But that's not what this episode is about. Because after I myself went through the process that I teach in the membership and got our homes and lives organized, I still did not feel that way at work. And I think what is so interesting is that we can have an answer for something and we can make a transformation in one area of our life and become super high performing. And it doesn't necessarily translate into other parts of our lives if we don't consciously make a choice to apply those same principles to that other area of our life, right? So like we could have our home lives totally in order, and then we don't make any of those shifts in our business life and we don't see the full benefit. Obviously, when you get one area of your life super dialed in, you're just automatically going to see less stress and see some of those benefits in the other area. But it really does require you to very conscientiously apply principles to the other area of your life. So what I want to talk about is really what we can do in our work lives to make that part of our life feel better. So after I got my whole life organized, I found that I still had some pain points around running my business and working. And I spent a lot of time figuring out how to eliminate pain points, right? If you've listened to me for any amount of time, you know that I don't like to be annoyed. I don't like to feel friction points. And I really spend a lot of time identifying them and figuring out how to make them better. So I did that with work. And it's interesting because I wasn't really doing it in any sort of deliberate way. Like I wasn't trying to find a framework per se. I was just trying to make life feel easier. But through this process of iterating and beta testing, I came up with a framework. And that's what I want to share with you today. So I'm going to talk about my 4 game-changing steps to drastically improve your life and work. You are amazing, friend, and you deserve to have it all. And these 4 steps that I'm going to talk about today will help you get there. And I love a framework. I think frameworks are so helpful. And I don't know if this is how other people come up with frameworks. I very rarely have an idea for a framework and then create like a program from there. It's really the opposite. It comes from the research and, like I said, iterating and beta testing. And then from there, you're like, okay, this is the framework that I have. And I like doing it this way because you know it works at that point when you've actually then created a framework from it. So I created a framework that I called VIBE, and it stands for Vision, Integration, Balance, and Energetics. And it is designed to help you create both business success and personal fulfillment without having to choose one over the other. I keep saying when I'm talking about vibe that you can have it all at once, and you really can, with some caveats. So let's get into it. So V in vibe stands for your vision, and you need to define your business and life goals. A clear vision is the cornerstone for success. And when I say you can have it all at once, you really can. But I think what happens for a lot of us, especially as we get older, is we think about dreams that we had in our past. And I'll be very specific for myself. For many, many years, I dreamed of moving back to New York City. And I envisioned our life when we'd move back to the city. It wasn't that long ago that I still had this dream. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, do I even still want that? Or am I holding on to this dream that I had from so many years ago? Because I did feel like our time in New York was cut short. We ended up moving here to the suburbs of Boston when my son was 18 months old for my husband's job. And I didn't want to leave then. But through the years, I have realized that I don't actually know that that is my dream anymore. And I will not be staying in the suburbs of Massachusetts. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't know that moving back to New York City is what I want to do. And so obviously, this is not a work vision. This is for life, but it is so important that you are crystal clear on what you actually want. What do you want? And if you follow any sort of manifestation, or you are into sort of how the universe conspires in our favor, the first step is getting super clear on what you want, because you can't manifest something if you don't know exactly what it is. And it's the same thing with our businesses. You have to get super clear on what the vision is. What do you want? And maybe you don't know what you want 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What do you want next year? What do you want in 2025? Really think about that for your business and for your life. And the more clear that you are on what you want, not how you're going to get it, I'm not talking about the how, but just what is that vision? The clearer you are, the more likely you will be to get there. So get very specific about what you want your business and personal life to look like. And the next time you have a few minutes, I suggest that you actually write these down. Your top 3 priorities for 2025 from a personal and work perspective. So maybe you have one work goal, maybe you have one personal goal, and then you have one bonus goal. What do you want to accomplish? And do those goals align with what truly matter to you? When we have a strong vision for what we want, everything flows from there. And so many of us just sort of go, 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 go. And we never take time to actually stop and think through what do we actually want? Do the things that we say we want still light us up? Are there dreams that we're actually like ready to let go of? Not because we are giving up on ourselves. If there's a dream that you truly want, don't give up on yourself, friend. You can have it. Even if 2025 is not your year for it, I want you to hold on to those dreams. But I also want you to have an openness and a willingness to let go of the things that you thought you wanted or that you thought you should have, and really be open to what actually lights you up. So the first piece of this is getting super clear on what your vision is. Okay. Step 2 in the framework is I, which stands for integration. And this is blending your business and personal life. And this one is a game changer. Instead of feeling like you have to choose between your business and your life, how can you blend the two in a way that makes sense for you? Now, there are so many techniques that I teach for this. So I want to talk about one very specific one right now, and it is time blocking. Now, this can look different for each of us, but I want to share with you a sample of what an integrated day might look like. So it could be blocking time every morning for your morning workout, which is just you time. You get to be a piece of this equation here, right? Not just work, not just your family, not just obligations, you get to be, you are the primary player here, friend. So blocking out time every morning for your week, for your workout. You know that I do this 5 days a week. That is my time to focus on my body, focus on my strength. but I don't do it on the weekends because my weekend blocking looks very different. Because on my weekends, my me time looks like sleeping in. It looks like a more decadent weekend with maybe a breakfast out, right? So my week time blocking, my weekend time blocking looks different, but non-negotiable is me time in the morning. And then every evening, it looks like spending time with my kids and my husband for connection, and then also having some me time, which might be taking a bath. It might mean reading. It might mean watching a show. So I like to bookend my days with me time. And then I also make sure I have blocked time for my family in there. And my me time could also look like date nights. It could also look like girls' nights out. It's really just about that connection. And then obviously during the day is when I spend my time doing work. Now, for me, I do well when I have one type of task to focus on in a day. And I tend to have more energy at the beginning of the week. So I focus my coaching calls towards the beginning of the week. I batch record my podcasts on Tuesdays. I do more of my strategic thinking towards the beginning of the week because as the week goes on, I just find that my energy wanes. So I leave my easier tasks and frankly, some of my personal tasks for later in the week. I have stopped scheduling any calls or meetings or client projects on Fridays, with a few exceptions here and there. Sometimes I'll end up having to do a consultation on a Friday, very, very rarely. But Fridays are my beauty appointment days or my personal task days. So this is what it looks like to integrate your business and personal life. So yes, obviously I work for myself. So I have complete control over my schedule. Well, complete control, right? We have clients and client calls that we're scheduling in. So it's not like I have a wide open schedule, but I do have control. So if you work for someone else, there is likely less freedom and flexibility to your day. But having said that, I would challenge you to think about where in your day you can control where you are scheduling things and where you are blocking your time for certain tasks. And don't be afraid to say, you know, between this time and this time every day, I don't book any meetings. Maybe it's for your lunch hour. You like to go outside every day for lunch, grab some lunch, get a walk. And maybe that's when you're making some personal calls or you're calling to make appointments, right? I want you to really just think about how you can take ownership over your time and block your time out throughout your day. So it's not just super work focused, but it is really deliberate about what work you're doing when, how it aligns with your energy so that you are being super productive. Have fun with it, right? Don't think of this as like a stressful thing. This is what I wanted to say. I was thinking about this at the beginning. I watch a lot of people on Instagram, obviously, that have these super regimented days and like people who track their macros and everything feels so calculated. And I look at that and I think, oh my gosh, I do not want to live like that. I do not want everything to be so calculated. So what I'm talking about here in this framework is not about this rigid set of rules. It's not about this like crazy structure that you have to follow. It is about eliminating pain points, creating structure for yourself so that you have freedom, so that you have more time, so that you are listening to your own specific energy and that you are maximizing your productivity based on your energy. I'm going to get more into energy when we get into E, but it is a piece of integration also because we can't pretend that we are not complete people. When we show up to do work, we are also women and we are wives and we are mothers and we have competing tasks. And I think that we start feeling guilty when we are not hyper focused on the one thing we're doing. But what if that's not the goal? What if the goal is not to pretend we live in a silo, but it really is to figure out how we can integrate all the pieces of us all at once? We can feel like one complete human being. I'm not talking about multitasking. We don't want to do all the things all at once because then we will do nothing as well. And I'll probably dive deeper into this into another episode, because the reason batching tasks and time blocking is so important is because we lose so much productivity with context switching. When we keep switching from different task to task, the statistics on the productivity we lose are just crazy. So this is about how can we really maximize our efficiency so that we can have more freedom, not so that we can be so freaking rigid with our lives. Okay. Speaking of not being rigid, we come to the B in the vibe framework, which is for balance. And when I am talking about balance here, this is all about building routines for sustainable success. And it is not enough to have a clear vision and big goals. And it's not enough to just use time blocking. If that was enough, I think we all would be exactly where we want to be. But we need to build daily routines that keep us on track. And I am a huge fan of micro habits that set us up for success. And then integrating accountability and structures and checklists and all the things that will help keep us on track. So one of the things that I have done, I'm trying to get better about, and this truly is a micro habit, is schedule shorter meetings. Schedule shorter meetings. Do your meetings need to be as long as they are? Get in the habit of scheduling shorter meetings and ending my meetings by 3 so that I can take my kids to activities. I already talked about leaving my Fridays open from calls so that I can either work on personal stuff or catch up time. I have micro habits around checking email and all of the systems that I use on a daily basis first thing in the morning, and then not checking things again throughout the day, but having not set times, but sort of powering through bigger projects first and then checking things again so that I'm not constantly being drawn to checking my phone, checking my email. But again, these are micro habits that you have to sort of get yourself out of, right? So many of us are in the habit of checking our phone so often, checking our email. How can you stop those? How can you create a new habit that is not such a time suck? So I was actually putting a presentation together about this subject, and I was trying to find some visuals, and I came across the visual of a balance scale, right? Like you think of like a legal scale, where it balances by having the same weight on either side, right? That's balance. But a lot of times when we think of balance, we think of like 2 of the same size objects on each side of that scale, right? So let's say one side is life and one side is work, and they become balance. But what I think is a much more helpful visual is the weights themselves need to balance, but the object on it doesn't. So let's say for work, you have 3 major projects that you're working on. And then in your personal life, let's say you've got 10 different things that make that up, but you want to have the balance between the 2. You don't have to eliminate the amount of things on one end or the other. You just have to balance out the time and energy. So are there things in your personal life? Like I'll use the example of volunteering. For the past few years, I was the chair of a board, and it took up a tremendous amount of my time. And being philanthropic and giving back is a huge family value of ours. It's a huge individual value of mine, and it's super important to me. But I realized that the amount of time that I was spending in that role was unsustainable, and it was detracting from other time that I could have been spending on work or on personal things. So I have pulled back the amount of time, my personal time that I spend on philanthropic work, but I still give money to philanthropy and I still go to some key events. So it's not that philanthropy itself was knocked off that side of the scale. It's just, it became a smaller chunk on that side so that I would have more time and energy to put into other things in my personal life so that I could keep the balance of the scales. So for me, that is a much more helpful visual than trying to think, how do we perfectly even these out? It's not about that, but it is about figuring out what balance that you want. And I'm not saying that your work life and personal life have to be the things that balance, right? It is whatever it is for you that you feel like makes up that balance on the scale. But it really is not thinking about the number of things you do. That could be a piece of it, but really, how can you make sure that where you're spending your time and attention is intentional and you're putting the most amount of time into the things that are most important to you. They say, look where you spend your time, and that is what you value most. And is that the case for you? Ask yourself that, because I know for myself, that was not the case. I mean, what do I care about the most in this world? My husband and 2 kids. I mean, unequivocally, are they where I was putting my most time and attention? Absolutely not. I wasn't. I had totally lost my way. Now, do my husband and my kids need so much time and attention from me? They do not, especially now that my kids are older, but they do need my 100% attention and presence when I am with them. So maybe the time of that pie has shrunk down, but has the quality of the time and attention I'm spending on them improved? It has, because of the intentionality and because of applying this framework and really, you know, being honest with myself of taking that hard look at myself and saying, I'm saying one thing, but my actions and where I'm spending my time are suggesting something else. And it's hard to take that that honest look at ourselves and see where we are not showing up as the person that we think we are. But it is such an important and helpful process because it's never too late. We can make these changes. And I feel very, very happy with the balance I have now. When I first started this business and my kids were younger, I just felt like I had zero time for myself, zero. And I looked it. I didn't look great. I had put on weight. I wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't very nice. And I was working nonstop. Any free second that I had on the nights and on the weekends, like I was just work, 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 work. Now, and I've talked about this on many episodes at this point, I have more free time now than I am comfortable with. And I say that because I am resisting the urge to fill it with more things, with more to do. And so it's uncomfortable because I have to sit with myself. I have to sit with free time. I have to continually evaluate and reevaluate what I want to do. But it also is amazing. And you really can get there. But it takes having this really honest conversation with yourself of what do you want? What are you doing? And what changes can you make to create the life that you want? I do not think it's an excuse when people say they're overwhelmed and busy. It is factual. It is true. It is happening. We have too much going on. And I also know from seeing the women I coach apply this framework that we are also making choices that make it more difficult for ourselves. Not just making choices, but not calling in for reinforcements, not asking for help, feeling like we have to do all the things and be all the things. And we don't. We absolutely do not. That's a piece of this as well. And I've talked about with immersive productivity, which is really the overarching idea that I came upon that helped me then distill it into this framework, this vibe framework. But immersive productivity is really asking yourself, do these things need to be done? And do they need to be done by me? Those are the key questions. And once you answer those questions, then you can apply this vibe framework and it just works so brilliantly together. Okay. So we've talked about balance and you get to decide what balance looks like for you. Do not let anyone else tell you what you need to balance and what your balance looks like. It does not mean that you go to work every day and that you also, are the PTA president and you're in your kids' classroom every day. Like if you don't enjoy doing that stuff, don't do that stuff. Don't let anyone shame you into what your balance looks like. If you are someone who loves to work, like me, I love to work. I spend more time working than I probably need to because I enjoy it, not with a chronic need to prove myself, but because it's just what I want to do. So you get to define your balance. You get to define your integration. You get to define your vision. You noticing a theme here? You are in control, friend, but you have to spend the time getting crystal clear on what you want and setting up the systems and boundaries around it. Okay. So finally, step 4, E is energetics. And this is really about mindset and energy management. Taking care of yourself is not optional. It is essential. You cannot show up at work. You cannot show up for your family. You cannot show up for yourself if you are not taking care of yourself. So learning how to manage your energy really can bring you more fun, more creativity, more focus in every aspect of your lives. So I talked about this a little bit, but when are you your most energetic? And when do you get those slumps where maybe you should take a walk? You should do a little bit of a meditation. So for me, I have the most energy at the beginning of the week and in the morning. I am a morning person, but not really. Like I do not like to get out of bed in the morning, but I also don't like to stay in bed for too long during the week. I do enjoy it on the weekends. So I get up, I get my workout done, and I try and do the hardest tasks that I have to do in a day in the morning, not just to get them done, but because I am better, I am fresher in the morning. I just am. As the day goes on, I get tired, I get angsty, I I don't know. I just get less motivated. So I know that about myself. So I am always trying to batch and schedule in my harder tasks earlier in the week and then earlier in the day. I I like to be productive throughout my day. So it's not that I want to stop working at noon. I wouldn't feel good about that either. But can I do those easier tasks in the afternoon and later in the week? Responding to emails, whatever it is, right? Those more admin-y tasks that we all have to do that we can't necessarily offload, reading over things, editing things. So for me, creating, like writing and creating content is much harder than editing it. So if I have to do something creative, I will do it earlier in the day, earlier in the week. If I have to be editing something, I will oftentimes save it for later in the day or later in the week. So think about your energy. And also, you know, so my kids get home from school early these days. So I always do a sort of just take some time for myself before they're going to get home, even if it's 5 minutes, have a snack, get a little fresh air, maybe go for a quick walk, just so that I can be in really good energy when I see them, because that makes them feel good. And I want them to feel good when they see me. I want them to know that they are important and they are special and that they don't get the worst part of me. And so I actually do some energetic things to get in that space, because I was finding like that's the time during the day when I usually get my little energy slump or, like a food craving. And then it was not a great situation. They'd come home and I'd be a little bit grumpy, a little bit hangry. I'd want to have a snack. I was focused on myself. I'm like, this is not the vibe. See what I did there? This is not the vibe that I want for when my kids walk into the door. So now I try to be much more deliberate about wrapping things up a few minutes before they're going to get home. And literally, I'm just talking about a few minutes, but just kind of like shake myself out of my, I don't even want to say funk, but just energetic slump so that I can be in really good energy for them. So pay attention to your energy throughout the day. In my program, I created an energy tracker that I give out to the women that I coach so that they can actually more deliberately track their energy. So actually like track your energy, think about it throughout the day, because the more data you have, the better decisions you can make around this. So really think about when are you most energetic, when you get those slumps, and focus on your personal energy, but also the energy around you, right? Are there people that you're around that have good energy? Are there people that don't have great energy? Do you need to sort of make some changes with that? It can be super grounding when we think about the energy around us and also help us attract what we want into our lives. So there you have it, friends. The vibe framework. It really is possible to have it all at once when you get super clear on what it is exactly that you want and that you put some very specific structures in place to get there. You have to believe it is possible. And friend, you have to know that you deserve it. Okay? You do. You deserve to have it all. So to recap, my 4 game-changing steps to drastically improve your life and business are centered around vision, integration, balance, and energetics. So next time you're feeling a little stressed or you're feeling excited about making change, think about vibe. think about these four components and how you could, vibe your way into a better situation, better mood, better place that you're in for work and life because you absolutely deserve it. So play around with this and see how amazing of a life that you can create, and go make it a great day.